Yo, what is up guys? Delboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So on Saturday night, will Callum Smith turn up to fight against Canelo Alvarez, or will he lay down in this fight? I've been thinking about this one a lot. I have to say, this fight was announced, 4 or 5 weeks ago, whenever it was. I wasn't really excited then. And I have to say, I'm still not excited now. One of the reasons being is Callum Smith, where he's at in his career right now, how he's looked recently, and the circumstances leading into this fight. Now, Callum Smith has always been a fighter who kind of blows hot and cold. Sometimes he'll be workmanlike against less than stellar opposition, like Luke Blackledge, for example. But other times he'll blow these sort of guys away in brutal fashion, like Rocky Fielding, like Hadil Mohammadi, etc, etc. He's always been like a hot and cold type of fighter. So he's never really been the most consistent. And in my opinion, this is just my perspective, but I've not really seen many glaring improvements from Callum Smith for a long time now. I believe fighters, certain fighters at least, can stagnate in their careers, whether that be because of a lack of competition, not fighting for hard fights, whether that be because of, repetitive training and learning nothing new in the gym. It could be due to a number of reasons, but I see Callum Smith as a guy who's kind of stagnated in his career. In the last few years, Callum Smith hasn't exactly been the most active guy in the world. And to me, the World Boxing Super Series, while it's great on paper, while it made him a lot of money, I think winning the World Boxing Super Series really hampered Callum Smith's career. It certainly hampered his profile in the UK. None of those fights were on Sky Sports. Apart from the George Groves fight, none of those fights really got big coverage in the UK. Even the George Groves fight wasn't exactly like a massive event in the UK. One of the reasons being was because that it wasn't on Sky Sports box office, and the other being it wasn't even held in the UK. So that tournament, in my opinion, certainly wasn't good for his profile. And even from a competition standpoint, let's have a look at Callum Smith's run in that tournament. He fought Eric Skoglund, who was like a good European level fighter, maybe fringe world level at a push. He then fought Nicky Holskin, who was a kickboxer. Nobody knows how good that guy is in boxing, but he never looked that great to me. And in the final, he fought a depleted George Groves. Callum Smith had a pretty easy ride in the World Boxing Super Series, and on top of that, he got paid a hell of a lot of money. I've read that he got paid over 10 million for winning that tournament, 10 million sterling, 10 million pounds. So he's had a fairly easy ride in that tournament, and he made a massive amount of money in the process. And maybe that might have actually hampered his desire in the sport of boxing. When you've earned that sort of money for winning the World Boxing Super Series, especially against the guys Callum Smith was fighting, why would Callum Smith fight a Caleb Plant, fight a David Benavidez, a Billy Joe Saunders? Why would he take those sort of fights for a couple of million when he's earned over 10 million with an easy run? Why is he going to take those fights? And I think that's a reason why Callum never fought those sort of guys. And, as a result, he was treading water. He fought Hassan Ndam, who was basically a shot middleweight moving up in weight. And then he fought John Ryder, a guy he clearly overlooked and basically got a gift decision. I think the World Boxing Super Series and the payday that came with it might have actually hampered Callum Smith's hunger as a fighter. To me, he doesn't strike me as a guy who is going to stick around for a long time. Genuinely, if he loses this fight, I wouldn't be entirely shocked if this is the last time we see Callum Smith in the ring. Now, I'm not calling that. I'm just saying I wouldn't be shocked. And yeah, Callum Smith basically has been waiting around for a Canelo fight, because that's the only fight that's comparable to the payday that he got in the World Boxing Super Series. And when you wait around, when you fight less than stellar competition, when you don't really take it as seriously as you should be doing, you're going to stagnate as a fighter, get worse, not get better, and I think that's what we've seen with Callum Smith. And bear in mind also, before the World Boxing Super Series, Callum Smith was waiting around for a long time to actually get a big fight. He was the WBC mandatory, I believe in 2014, 2015, and it took him all that time to actually win a world title. You know, the guy's been in limbo for quite some time, fighting subpar competition. His resume's not that strong, and as a result, I don't see this as a guy who's improved as a fighter in the last few years. And that's one reason why going into this fight, I really don't have any faith in Callum Smith turning up and giving it a real go. Obviously, as well, the last fight with Callum Smith, he fought John Ryder, got a gift decision. So when I look at Callum Smith's career trajectory so far, it doesn't really fill me with much confidence, to be honest. And also, obviously, the 4-week training camp, 5-week training camp is never ideal. People can say all they want, that a fighter should stay in shape all year round. That is true, but there's more to it than that. You know, when you're fighting someone like Canelo, you need a long camp. You need a 12-week camp to get the right sparring, the right preparation, the right dieting, you know, the right everything, the right strength and conditioning. Can you really do that in a full 5-week period? Really? There's a big difference between staying in shape and preparing for a fight against a pound-for-pound star. So when people say that, you know, oh, Callum should be in shape anyway, that's just being disingenuous as far as I'm concerned, or being ignorant. So the 4-week training camp, 5-week training camp for Callum Smith really is another thing that is putting me off him in this fight. Bear in mind as well, he's travelling to Texas from the UK. A lot of that time period is going to be eaten up by travel. So 5-week training camp, is it even really a 5-week training camp? So that's another red flag going into this fight. And on top of that, of course, we have to look at Canelo Alvarez's track record when it comes to these big fights. You know, it's funny, I was listening to BDA today, they done a show last night, and this topic came up about Canelo Alvarez. By the way, shout out to the BDA, the Boxing Debate Arena, best boxing podcast on YouTube. Reason why I like that podcast so much is because there's no circle jerking. The panel sometimes go at each other, everyone has their own opinion, it is what it is, but the BDA family, excellent stuff. Shout out to all the panellists on there. But, you know, the topic in reference to Canelo came up, whether he's hated on unnecessarily or whether the criticism is warranted. Now, me personally, I believe the criticism is more than warranted. Again, it all really comes down to just pattern recognition. Pattern recognition being one of the reasons why we as humans have been on the planet for so long. You know, if you go to a bad area, you realise it's a bad area, you know to get out. If you're seeing a girl and you know that she's basically cheated on every man she's been with, you know to pump and dump. You know, pattern recognition. It really does kind of dictate your decisions if you're of sound of mind and have a decent IQ. But, you know, when you look at Canelo Alvarez, there have been numerous discrepancies throughout his career, which really makes it hard for you to get excited for his fights. Me at least, I can only speak for myself, but, you know, certain scorecards in certain fights, even fights he genuinely won, like the Austin Trout fight, I mean, those scorecards were way too wide. The draw card against Floyd Mayweather, where he clearly lost, absolute joke. The draw against Gennady Golovkin, absolute joke. A couple of the Lara cards were a disgrace. Even the Miguel Cotto fight, yeah, Canelo won that fight, but not that wide. Then you have the PED issue where Canelo tests positive and he gets a 6-month ban, slap on the wrist, and even after Canelo tests positive, the WBC, a sanctioning body in boxing, are on his side. You know, the rehydration clauses in certain fights against Danny Jacobs, Rocky Fielding, Chavez Jr., Sergey Kovalev. Then you've got catch weights. There's so much when it comes to Canelo that doesn't meet the eye, that doesn't make for a fair playing field, and it genuinely kills a lot of enjoyment for a lot of boxing fans when it comes to his fights. If you take that standpoint on Canelo, I don't see how anybody can claim that's hating or being unreasonable. All of these things I've mentioned are reality, you know. They've happened, we've seen it, and it's been numerous fights. You know, aging guys out like Golovkin, for example, chucks the WBC title in the bin. As soon as he sees any sign of slippage, that fight gets made. There's so many things with Canelo that just really kind of puts you off his events. And you can understand it happening once or twice in someone's career, that's fair enough. But with Canelo, it is just far too regular. And I don't think people are making a big deal of it when they say that, or when they bring these issues up. It's not hating, it's just talking about reality, things that have happened in the past. I mean, everybody's banging on about this Callum Smith fight having no rehydration clause. Now, maybe it doesn't, but we've been told that before. I mean, are people's memories that short? Go back to Sergey Kovalev. When that fight got made, one of the big talking points was if there was a rehydration clause. And we were sold for weeks and weeks and weeks that there was no rehydration clause. Come 2 days before the fight, or 1 day before the fight, it turns out there was a rehydration clause. Kovalev could not rehydrate any more than 185 on the night. So we've been lied to before on that issue. So for anybody to say they don't believe Eddie Hearn or Callum Smith that there's no rehydration clause, who are you to say they're wrong? You know, we've been lied to before. Maybe they're telling the truth, maybe. But, you know, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, or in Canelo's case, fool me 17 times. So come on, man. There's reasonable suspicions in regards to Canelo fights. There just is at this point. People always compare him to Floyd Mayweather. Now, listen, Floyd had A-side privileges, no doubt about it. But I have to say, with Floyd, I always felt on the right night, somebody could beat him on points. You know, you look at certain scorecards, for example. The Canelo fight is the best example. One judge had it as a draw. No way that happened. The Marcus Maidana fight, Maidana got a draw card in that fight. I thought he was very fortunate to get that card. The Oscar De La Hoya fight, one judge actually had it to Oscar De La Hoya. I felt Floyd pretty much clearly won that fight. Yeah, Floyd had that dodgy decision against Castillo, but, you know, he was injured in that fight and he won the rematch. That was really the only time where I felt Floyd got the benefit of the doubt from a judge, to be honest. But, you know, there was other times where I felt he won the fight and the judge didn't agree. So, to me, Floyd, yeah, he had his privileges, but he always seems a lot more beatable than Canelo. I'm talking about in the eyes of the judges. To me, with Canelo, you could win 11 rounds and you get a draw kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? And, again, this isn't based on hate. This isn't based on, you know, just bias or anything like that. It's based on objective reality. Things that have happened in the past, you know? So, it is what it is. I'm just not really excited for this fight. I have to be honest. Maybe on fight night, maybe I'll get excited, who knows? But, yeah, right now I'm just really not feeling it, I have to say. But, I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts below. I'm sure, you know, as always with this boxing shit, oh, you're a Golovkin fanboy. You know, that old chestnut, if you give any critical analysis of any fighter, they'll throw the fanboy excuse at you or the hater excuse at you because they have no argument. And, yeah, they're just hero-worshipping idiots. As far as I'm concerned, there are fighters I like, but, you know, I'm never going to lose any sleep if they lose a fight or they get criticised. You know, I've still got to pay my bills, I've still got to go about my daily life, as I always say. It's really not that deep. And the boxing community really is full of just, I don't know, man, just lost souls, I guess, man. They look to these fighters like they're like gods and they can't do no wrong. And you wonder why the world is the way it is. When people worship mindless celebrities, athletes, musicians, and yeah, people are kind of diverting that sort of energy, that sort of attention to the wrong areas. As far as I'm concerned, that's the reason the world is the way it is. You know, people's rights are being eroded away from them on the daily basis. People are losing their jobs. People's way of lives are being drastically changed. But, you know, people are too busy, you know, getting upset about their favourite fighter being criticised or what's going on in the fucking world of celebrities. I mean, come on, man. Whatever, man. It really winds me. I'll tell you what, I don't really show it much, but it really fucking irritates me when people label that sort of fucking thing at me. Oh, fanboy, hater. Really fucking irritates me. So, listen, if you disagree, that's fine, but allow that fucking bullshit. I'm not fucking interested. If you disagree, at least come up with a better argument than, oh, you're a hater or you're a fanboy of a certain fighter. That's all I'm saying. You know, just share your thoughts below, regardless of what you think. But anyway, enough of the frustrations with the boxing community and the world at large. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's not the most positive video in the world, but, you know, gotta say it how I feel, I guess. So there we go. Share your thoughts below. Beanie Guy Del Boy. Peace.